SpaceX just went public, and it's been the rave over the internet now for quite some time, and they finally went public. A lot of people were looking at the numbers and feeling like, in terms of revenue versus the amount per share, it didn't make sense, because they'll be valued at a number that is far beyond what their actual revenue is, and the fact that they are not even profitable. I think the only profitable part of SpaceX is Starlink, which makes sense because Starlink barely has any rival anywhere in the world right now. And that's the part of the business that's actually profitable. But the rest of SpaceX is basically burning through cash, like a serious amount of it. And if you look at the price that they placed on their stock, so it makes sense for people to be doubtful that the valuation that they are targeting was super high. And a lot of financial analysts were looking at the fact that the things that the revenue areas that they are looking at is still very futuristic for SpaceX. Talk of going to Mars, space exploration. All these things are like uncharted waters for a lot of people, and not being able to really place a grip on where exactly the money will be flown in from for SpaceX made a lot of financial analysts doubtful as to the success of the IPO. But as we see, people still have a lot of appetite for technological advancements and investing in such companies. So it really went even beyond. There was a 19% increase actually in the stock price by the end of the IPO session, and so it was a massive success, to say the least. Elon Musk from that immediately became the first trillionaire in modern history. That was based on estimates, based on they estimate these things based on, okay, what's the share price he holds in the company and what's the valuation of the company, plus all the other ones he has in Tesla and Twitter and all of that. And dude is basically the first trillionaire in modern history, and SpaceX is valued at I think $1 trillion now also. What do you think, Stacey?
I think Elon is basically enjoying the fruits of his diversification, right? I think the key driver in what allowed the IPO to raise an amount as large as $75 billion, which honestly is a lot, is the Starlink, right? I think that is like the money generating source, to be honest. And it's interesting to see that the current valuation, right, isn't necessarily as a result of what is currently attainable. Because, like you had mentioned, the revenue versus their current valuation is more of a futuristic valuation. But my concern, particularly, is that would they be able to keep the growth on top of that when it comes to like the stock pricing? So after this initial IPO, would the stock amounts, the stock prices continue to rise, or is this like a peak before a valley?
But I think people are also betting on the belief that this could really be like the next big thing in terms of investments. As you've seen with tech, people who bet on these things early eventually became very wealthy based on the past companies like Nvidia and all of that, and all those other companies, where people didn't really see exactly initially where the money is coming from and all that. So I think this is also that kind of there's also that fear of missing out, FOMO, where people are looking at the fact that if this ends up being something massive, they'll have themselves to
Mhm.
blame. And generally, before the IPO as well, there's been a lot of market buzz, a lot of
Mhm.
SpaceX has also been doing, some good PR. So everybody is expecting,
Banking
something
on that.
positive and massive from SpaceX.
I think people are also banking on Elon himself, right? His ability to innovate and break boundaries. So I feel like he would always find something new within that space that could most likely generate revenue and, help stock prices rise as well.
Yeah, I made a mistake earlier on when I mentioned the IPO was the current valuation was around a trillion. It's actually 2 trillion, and that is plenty in terms of valuation for a company. In Africa here, where when we have a company go beyond $1 billion, it's a unicorn already, because it's something rare for companies to go beyond that threshold in
Yes.
terms of valuation in this part of the world. So they're unicorns. But we are seeing these other companies, especially with the rise of AI, that are pushing past the $1 trillion mark. So
Yeah.
what do we call these ones now? They are redefining the game. $1 billion is now looking cheap these days for, for market valuation, because these guys are pushing way past and going, into the $1 trillion mark. Anthropic did it the other day, and SpaceX has done it. OpenAI is looking to do something similar as well.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they'll probably also be able to push past that $1 trillion mark. And then
Mhm.
there's already been Nvidia. Nvidia has been, Nvidia is about 5 trillion in terms of valuation. So now you have this new era of companies. We probably need to they'll probably need to redefine what unicorn is at this point, because the unicorn is now looking very,
It's like
maybe in,
everybody's attending it.
yeah, but maybe in Africa we'll still keep our unicorn as $1 billion, because you also need to look at there's a difference in purchasing power and all of that. So the companies that
Precisely.
are
Yeah.
already going beyond the $1 billion in Africa are already, pushing boundaries and doing a lot of stuff to get there. We don't have Fang anymore. Now we have mangoes. There's a new definition of who the big dogs are in tech right now. And
Mhm.
SpaceX is, yeah, definitely up there as well. We'll
Yeah.
see what other IPOs we get in the future, but this is an interesting one to keep an eye out for.